Okay, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hello and welcome to...
Hey! You need to clap.
Oh my gosh, you're right!
You dumb
Alright, that's the end of our podcast.
Sorry.
Hello and welcome to Your Favorite Book Podcast. I'm Mallory.
I'm Tanner.
We're siblings.
We like reading books.
And this week's episode is about Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas.
Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas.
Yes, it is by Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas.
That's very apt because the whole book is written in that same faux early English voice. Yeah, and that's kind of a pet peeve for me when a very American person tries to write like an old English person.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work because you don't know it.
You don't speak that way.
And there's not like the history of knowing it.
Yeah.
You can tell that it's superficial.
Yeah, it's weird. But that's the world this is set in. Yeah. Throne of Glass is...
YA fantasy.
YA fantasy. It's kind of like medieval European fantasy. There's castles and swords and very light sprinkling of magic horses, cloaks.
Yes.
There's lots of clasps.
There are.
There's belts, anklets, amulets.
Yes.
All your jewelry bases are covered in this book. So if that's what you want, you'll love this thing.
Yes. So
this was one of your favorite books.
Yeah, I read this book last year. Last year I read the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas and then followed it up with the Throne of Glass series, which is the way that most people recommend you read her discography. What is it called?
Discography is a music term, but it works here too.
Yeah, I don't know what the word is for bibliography.
Bibliography?
Actually, maybe it is bibliography. I don't know.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that. That might not be accurate.
Well, take credit for it. Now it's your thing.
No, I'm not that smart.
No, that makes sense.
Anyway, I read them last year and I really enjoyed them. It kind of got me back into reading and I read all 7 books in like 2 or 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, I really
you devoured
plowed through them. I really, really enjoyed it. I liked the characters. I liked how big it was because it's a 7-book series and the last 2 or 3 books are like 600 to 800 to 900 pages. So they're pretty big. And yeah, I really liked them. Kind of in the same way that you said you liked Red Rising, where you read them all and just devoured them and loved them.
Yeah, I think that's common with most books that you love, right?
Yeah.
You just can't get enough.
Yeah.
You don't stop to think about it. You're just like, I need more.
Yeah, and all of them are out, so I was able to.
Yeah, that's nice too.
Which is funny. I definitely had to look up the Spark Notes before we did this episode because I couldn't remember where book 1 ended and where the next one started, and I didn't want to spoil anything on accident.
Yeah. I felt the same way about Red Rising. It's like, okay, where does it end really? And I think I did spoil the second one for you when I was
I don't remember it, so.
Yeah. We did do an ACOTAR episode. It was one of our first episodes. You can go ahead and watch that.
Yep.
It's rough.
Yeah, you know.
That was when we had 2 cameras.
Yes.
And we've only just gotten worse from here on out. So we're glad you're here.
Yeah, we actually removed the yellow color profile from this video, so enjoy that.
The yellow color profile?
Yeah, it's like you put a filter on to take all the yellow out of the screen. It was a bad joke.
We actually want to make it worse for you as the episodes go on. But I felt okay about ACOTAR.
Yeah.
I could see some things about it that I did like. I had some criticisms and some personal pet peeves. And I think what we came to with that video was that it's not really the book for me.
Yeah.
Although I could see some of its merit.
Yeah.
I could see its merit for sure. Throne of Glass, I did not like as much as ACOTAR.
Yeah. Which is funny because I like Throne of Glass a lot more than ACOTAR.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just not the person for Sarah J. Maas books.
Yeah, you're probably not her target audience.
No. And I understand that. It makes perfect sense to me that you say that you read this book and the entire series in 2 weeks and it got you started into reading. Because I think that's exactly what this book is for.
Yeah.
It's for someone like that who wants to get back into reading fantasy or epic fantasy because it's pretty light on world building.
Yeah.
Throne of Glass is longer than ACOTAR. For me, I would recommend someone start with ACOTAR instead of Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
I think the scope is smaller in ACOTAR, and it's a bit more satisfying to read.
Yeah.
There are fewer characters. There are fewer subplots. Throne of Glass kind of feels scattered to me.
Yeah.
But
a lot more going on.
Yeah. And it kind of gave me similar vibes to Mockingjay, which was a book that I really didn't like because it had too big of a scope.
Yeah.
Except in Mockingjay, there was at least fewer characters, I think, and fewer subplots.
Yeah.
It was more just about Katniss. Throne of Glass, in the middle, there are some like POV chapters from other characters.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to juggle these other subplots along with Celaena and her quest. And they didn't pay off in a very satisfying way for me at the end. But like I said, I understand that I'm not the target audience for this book. This is, for me, like a mid-tier book. It's pretty good. It's an enjoyable enough story. But I love something like Getting the Knife, which is the Locked Tomb series. If you've never read a fantasy book before and you start with Getting the Knife, unless it's like your thing, you're like, wow, I never knew that. I just love this type of stuff. Then you will not like it.
Yeah, you'll probably never read again. You won't finish the book and you'll be like, this is why I hate reading. Yeah,
and be like, I don't understand why people like this thing.
Yes.
But for me, who I've been reading for a very long time, when I first got into like epic fantasy, I just searched on Audible, epic fantasy.
Yeah.
And then the first book was The Way of Kings, and I was like, I love this. Yeah. So obviously I'm made for that type of book more. And Sarah J. Maas is something that like I would say our mom could read that if we wanted to get her to start reading epic fantasy. Yeah. Right? She only reads like Anne of Green Gables. Yes. Right? Yeah. So I would much rather give her Throne of Glass or Aquatar rather than Getting the Knife or The Way of Kings.
Yeah, Throne of Glass is almost like a stepping stone in between YA fantasy and epic fantasy.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Especially as the series expands and goes on, it's like a good in between for people who might want to start getting into epic fantasy and don't know where to begin or don't want to start with something as intimidating as The Way of Kings.
Yeah, because it is. Because The Way of Kings is intimidating. Yes. That world building jump is steep. Like, there's 2 prologues. Both of them are confusing and they don't really relate to the primary narrative. And it's just massive. Yeah. It is like the definition of epic fantasy. For me, I eat that shit up. Yes. I love that. I love a sense of mystery. I love being confused. I love not knowing what's happening. And Throne of Glass kind of did that too, but not in like a compelling way for me or like a mysterious way for me.
It kind of felt like Sarah J. Maas has a habit of adding twists and turns. Yes. And to me, they don't feel like they've been thought out. They feel like maybe one day she was like, oh my gosh, what if this happened instead?
Yes, exactly.
It's like the same thing as feeling a little bit hollow, like the vocal style of feeling a bit hollow to me. Yeah.
So explain what you mean by that. The vocal style of feeling hollow.
Well, we were talking about how it's kind of like the hoity-toity faux
the
English.
Voice.
Yeah, the voice, sorry.
You were a singer, so I thought you were talking about like a specific singing style.
Oh, no.
And I was like, I don't understand that comparison.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
When I read it, I sing it out loud to myself.
Yeah. And Celaena killed the big fat tough guy. I guess that's enough of a preamble for this book. Yeah. Just to say that if you love this thing, I think that's fine, and that's great. This is not the book for me. Yeah. I still don't know if I like romance or if this is more specifically a romance book, because if I do, then I haven't read that book yet. Like, there's obviously more of a focus on romance in Throne of Glass and Aquatar than the books that I read. Yes. There are some books that I've read where it's like, ooh, I want these 2 to get together really badly. Yeah. But I don't know if I've read specifically a romance book where I'm like, I know this was made for people who like romance, and I like this book. Therefore, I like romance.
Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of Sarah J. Maas's books are breaking into the new romantasy genre.
I wonder if it kind of started that.
Yeah.
Because that's what this feels like.
I think Aquatar probably is one of the headers of that. Yeah. For sure. And Throne of Glass, yes, and especially later on in the series. But that's a good question. Like, some people prefer romance with their fantasy versus preferring fantasy with romance. Yeah. You know?
And I haven't read enough romance to know where I fall into that divide.
Yeah.
So I'm also saying that I don't like it, that I don't know if I don't like it because there's romance in it and I don't like romance stuff. I'm fine with it. I understand. I sound like such a person who doesn't understand romance at all. When I say, like, I understand how it works from a structural standpoint. Like, I'm a scientist in a lab trying to piece together how, like, emotion works.
Well, I do
what
that
I mean?
too, so I don't know if I'm the right person to tell you that you're normal.
Yes. You can say that you and I are similar in the way that we're not normal, how we analyze the world and how social interactions work.
Yes.
I don't know what the point was for that. But the point was, I don't know if this is the book for me because there's romance in it or if the romance in it isn't well written. And I'll just tell you my opinion. I don't think the romance is very well done.
I am trying to remember. I didn't like the romance in the first one either.
Okay.
There's
in Throne of Glass.
Yes. There's different characters introduced later on that have better chemistry and better on-page discussions and stuff like that. I also really just don't like Cole as a character that much either, so I'm biased towards not liking the romance there.
Yeah.
But
because they set that up for the second book.
Yeah. And that's interesting to think about, like, is it just a book problem or is it a genre problem? Yeah. For you, not for, well, yeah, for you. For me. If is that
why I don't like it? There are book problems for me, and I'm just looking at it from the romance point of view. Yeah. Which we can talk about. Yeah. There are books, like I said, that I do like the romance in. Like, I love Getting the Knife. I love Hera Hark and Gideon. I know they're not, like, specifically a couple, but I like their relationship. Yes. She takes you on a journey. Yeah. There's an arc with that relationship, just like a character arc. And there isn't an arc with, like, any of the relationships in Throne of Glass.
Yeah, to me, I don't remember if we've talked about this or not, but we've talked about it, but not on the podcast. Okay. Where sometimes you get two characters together and the author doesn't put as much backstory into why they hate each other. Yeah. And you're just like, okay, well, they hate each other, but why? Oh, just because they can?
Just because they don't get along? Yeah. That's how the relationships feel. I want there to be
more pushing them against each other.
Yes. Or if these characters are meeting for the first time, like, that has to be something that the characters refer to later on as, like, this was my first impression of Prince Dorian. I don't like him because he's rich and he doesn't care about other people.
And he's enslaved me.
So that should be where their relationship starts. But it doesn't feel very well thought out. Yeah. We should talk about what the story is before we go any farther. Yes. I can give you a brief synopsis. Throne of Glass is about an assassin, the world's most notorious assassin, Celaena Sardothian, which is actually kind of a fun name.
I like it.
Rolls off the tongue. I kept thinking in my own head, like, the phrase kept on coming back into my head. Celaena Sardothian. I don't know why. It was just catchy. And she is a prisoner in Endovir, which is this mine. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's not very special. No. It's just where the Ardalan kingdom keeps their slaves. I don't know what they're mining. I don't know what resource they got. It doesn't really matter.
I don't know either.
Yeah, well, that's what most of this book feels like.
I think they're the salt mines. Is it the salt mines or is that me living in Utah?
It could be.
And there's salt here.
There is salt here. There could be salt there.
Yes.
There's salt everywhere. And she is captured for some reason. We don't know at the beginning. But she's been in this mine for a year. She's been treated horribly. She's a hardened 17-year-old girl. She's lost all this weight. She's been whipped. She's been beaten, abused, and the Prince of Ardalan, the Crown Prince, the son of the king who imprisoned her, right?
Yes.
Prince Dorian, whose first name I don't remember.
It is Dorian.
Oh.
Dorian Havillard?
Havillard, yeah, that's right. Pretty good names. Yeah. He takes her from her prison. She's escorted by another important character named Cole.
Which it's supposed to be pronounced Kale, but I actually refuse to say that.
We're just going to call him Cole. It's easier this way for us. And the prince says, I'm going to take you away from here if you want, to perform in my father's contest for a champion.
Yeah.
And if you say no, then you'll just go back to being a prisoner.
Yeah.
And she says, okay.
Yeah. And he's like, if you win, you become the king's assassin, and after serving us for 6 years, you'll be free.
Yeah. Basically indentured servitude.
Yeah, that's why she wants to do it. But you're right. There's no, like, do this or else I'll kill you.
And we'll get into that. But the story is about Celaena competing in this competition while at the same time falling in love with two men at the same time, but mostly Dorian. And spoiler alert, she wins.
Yes.
And that's kind of the whole story. That's basically the plot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of subplots. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't really tie into the end of the story very naturally, which is something else we'll also get into.
Yeah.
But I feel like most of this story was about the relationships between Celaena, Prince Dorian, and Captain Cole. There's a lot of scenes throughout this book where it's like, now Celaena plays piano and the prince comes by and they talk about Celena's dead boyfriend or lover.
Yeah.
And then Cole and Celaena are hanging out in Celena's room and they're reading a book and they talk about books.
Yeah, it's definitely romance with fantasy instead of fantasy with romance.
Yeah, I think so too. There is very little fantasy in this book.
Yeah.
Even though the name of the book, Throne of Glass, the book takes place within a glass castle, which is very fantasy setting.
It's very interesting.
But it's only interesting aesthetically.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing about the castle specifically that the characters do that makes it feel unique. Like, I'm going to compare it to Gideon the Ninth again.
Yeah.
But in Gideon the Ninth, the characters go to the first house, which is like an abandoned planet. And they live inside this torn down castle. And inside the castle, there's rooms with like ancient technology, which is like technology equal to our world today. And this world is set like thousands of years into the future.
Yeah.
And the characters explore these different rooms and there's puzzles to solve and mysteries and the world feels alive.
Yeah, and
unique.
There's a lot of interaction between the characters and the castle that they're in.
Yeah.
It plays a very, very big part on the plot.
Yes, it does.
In how they have to navigate the castle, the castle and the areas of the castle in Gideon the Ninth.
Yeah.
Which is fun and it makes it feel that much more real versus just being like, oh, and the castle's made out of glass.
And it's up there. Look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Having the characters interact with the setting is really important. And that doesn't really happen in this book. Like, there's nothing about the glass castle.
She climbs the wall once, but it's
not
stone
the glass
wall.
castle.
It's not
Why
glass wall.
Why don't you climb the glass castle? That would be so much more interesting. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. There isn't even like, they don't even explore like why is the castle made out of glass. Like characters remark about like how foolish it is that the castle is made out of glass.
And then that's it. There's no like, oh, there's this ancient story legend about lightning hitting sand and then it created this crystalline structure. Like,
and it's stronger than real glass.
Something.
Or like long ago, two dragons were warring over a mountain and they kept breathing fire on the mountain and the mountain turned into glass. It's dragon glass. It's not regular glass. Like, that's more interesting. Like, we came up with a more creative solution to where the glass castle came from in 2 seconds.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm getting heated. But that's what most of this book felt like to me.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't know what she wanted to write, but can't you have a little bit of fun with it?
Yeah, and I think, like...
Just exercise an ounce of creativity there.
Yeah, I mean, you're writing in a fantasy book.
Yeah, have fun with the fantasy.
There are no rules.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Make some of the competitions take place within the glass castle. Like, what if there was a room... Okay, I'm not coming up with this on the spot. I was brainstorming my own ideas of, like, things you could do inside the glass castle that would be cool and interesting.
Yeah.
What if there's a challenge where you have to, like, walk through a hallway? It's like this prismatic shard hallway.
Yeah.
Or the glass is different colors. There's light shining through it. And you had to make it through. It looked like a straight hallway, and it's like, oh, that looks easy. But while you walk through it, the lights distract you. And it's like a kaleidoscope, and you can like get brainwashed or get lost. Like nothing like that happens.
Yeah.
The setting is just aesthetic.
It's literally the title of the book.
I know. The Throne of Glass.
Could you have anything to do with it?
There is exactly one scene
that happens
inside the glass castle. And Celaena's terrified of it. And I was like, okay, this is her weakness, right?
Yeah.
She's scared of heights. She's scared of being inside the glass castle. It never comes up again.
Yeah. Come on, put your characters through something.
Yeah.
Something that's hard.
Set something up and pay it off.
Yeah.
Like there's a challenge where she has to scale the walls of the glass castle. Oh, she's scared of heights. Oh, she's scared of glass.
Oh, there's nothing to grip on because it's glass.
I better cover my hands and feet in tar and stick on it like a gecko. I'm making a joke, but she actually does that during the wall climbing challenge.
Yeah.
And I'm not a climber, okay? I don't climb. I did one Google search, literally one Google search. I clicked on 2 links to look up if climbers use tar to climb. I couldn't find anything.
No, they usually use chalk.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You wouldn't want... I mean, I don't know. I also am not an experienced climber. I've rock climbed maybe 4 times in my life. I've only ever seen people use chalk.
Unless she was like, how did people in medieval times use climbing?
Okay.
And it's like, they use tar. But chalk isn't like a new technology.
Well, that's interesting because like gymnasts and people who do like the bar swoopy thing, they use honey.
Chalk too.
No.
Oh, they use honey?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so
maybe
again,
there's something there.
I'm not critiquing that. It just felt a little weird.
Yeah.
It's a small pet peeve, a tiny aside, where it's like, wouldn't they have chalk instead of tar? I don't know.
Nah, she can shapeshift into a lizard now.
Okay.
She's like...
That's one of her assassin powers.
Yeah.
She doesn't sweat normal sweat. She can like concentrate really hard and sweat
secrete
tar.
mucus. Oh yeah.
Anyway, we're getting really distracted. There's so many small things that just kind of rub me the wrong way, and that was one of them. So like, if I think of it, then I'm just gonna latch onto it and go off onto a tangent.
Hey, it's funny.
But I guess we should talk about the competition itself.
Yeah.
Or maybe let's talk about the introduction actually.
Okay, yeah.
Celaena, we went over it briefly. You could shorten the first 3 chapters down to Celaena is a prisoner. She's taken before the prince, and she agrees to become the king's champion.
Yeah.
In order to become an indentured servant for 4 years and then be freed after that.
Yeah.
That's all that happens.
Yeah. It's a lot of text to get the beginning started.
Yeah. There's nothing that really grabs your attention, like in a world building sense either. It's nothing that really tells you much about the characters or their histories, their relationship, their backstories. It doesn't tell you about what Celaena wants specifically, as opposed to Hunger Games where it's like, first chapter, the Hunger Games. Ooh, what's that? Oh, it's this competition they hold every year. It's a way for the capital to keep its people enslaved. They fight each other. They fight amongst themselves. And 2 tributes are chosen per district. Like, there's so much information in those first few chapters.
And it's very well thought out and well laid out. So it's not like, oh, I'm gagging on all of the stuff that you've given me. Like, it's very meticulous about how they lay that out.
Yeah.
And it's very well done, so you drink it in and want the next piece of information right after, and it's thought out.
Yes. After reading Throne of Glass, and then looking back at something like Hunger Games and even getting the 9th, I realized you should actually learn how to trust your readers so much more with the information they can contain.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you can tell getting the 9th, that first chapter is kind of immaculate.
Yeah.
Because she hints towards Gideon and Harrowhark's relationship, how it's built off a rocky foundation. They hate each other because Gideon did something that led to the deaths of Harrowhark's parents. And now Harrowhark is puppeting her parents with these necromantic powers.
Yeah.
And Gideon's been trying to escape 85 times. This is her 86th attempt or whatever.
Yeah.
And this time it's gonna work. This time she's trying to escape, and she's planned so meticulously, and she's so earnest. Like, there's so much there about this character's relationships to each other.
Yeah. And you get your audience on board very quickly for that first chapter too. Like, even if it's not dumbed down and spelled out for the audience, they'll pick up what you give them and be like, okay, you'll fill it in later. I'm on board. I'm loving the writing. I'm loving the story. I'm loving the conflict.
Exactly.
Versus Stone of Glass is kind of like, Okay.
There's no information there.
It's almost makes you a lazy reader.
Yeah, it does.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just kind of along for the ride, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
You can hint towards those mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to know why Celaena was captured. Mm-hmm. I want to know why she's the world's most notorious assassin.
Yeah.
I want to know what it means to her to be an assassin. Mm-hmm. I want to know, like, her relationship with the characters in this world.
Yeah.
But her relationships with people before this book begins, they never show up again.
Yeah.
Like, Sam is apparently dead. Her father, Arobin, her adopted father, the king of assassins.
Yeah.
We never meet him.
Yeah.
Again.
I will say there is a prequel that I did not have you read first because.
And it covers those things.
Yes, but Sarah J. Maas herself has said you should read it third in the series, not first in the series.
Okay.
And it is the backstory of what happened before she got captured. So it is there. But being that the author has told you to read it third, that should still be answered in this book.
I know.
That's the issue.
Yes. This book really did feel like she didn't think about what Celaena's backstory was.
Yeah.
She didn't think about her motivation. Uh-huh. Like, we don't learn about her lover that died, apparently. I don't know what to call him.
Yeah. Lover. It's fine.
Until halfway through the book. Mm-hmm. And that traumatic experience has, like, almost no bearing on her thought process or decision making.
Yeah.
Like, okay, here's another example. You haven't read this book yet, and it doesn't give anything away. In The Way of Kings, it's a similar situation where Kaladin, the main character, his brother has died. And it's not a spoiler, but the way that he acts at the beginning of the book from page 1 is that his brother just died. And then you watch him change over time as you learn more about how that event happened to him specifically through flashbacks. It's a very different type of storytelling. But you don't have to hide those things from your audience until halfway through the book.
Well, it's like, it makes it seem like it's this, like, surprise. And
I
it's
know.
like, that doesn't need to be surprised because it's informing her decisions as a character.
Yes.
She should be like, oh, I need to prove myself to be the best assassin because that's what Sam would have wanted me to do.
Or I'm the reason why Sam is dead. I have to be the best assassin to never let someone that I care about die again. Yeah. And I'm never going to let myself fall in love again because I don't want to risk losing that person.
Readers want that from day one. They don't want the surprise.
You can do it. I believe in you. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. I'm just postulating externally. I don't know what the writing process of this book was like. But it felt like, to me, she wrote it one time, she had an editor do a spell check, and then that was it.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way about the first book. And I think, okay.
I know you really like this series, and I'm sorry I keep harping on it.
No, that's okay. You
ahead.
can not like it, and I can still like it. When you read Harry Potter, you read the first book, and you're like, wow, this is a great single package book.
Small middle grade fantasy.
Mm-hmm. And then as you go on, it builds.
Yes.
And then it's like, wow, this is a huge 7-book series.
Yeah.
Throne of Glass is not a great single package beginning.
No.
It feels like she's already trying to start book 7 in book 1.
Yeah.
And it
too much.
It doesn't work.
I completely agree with you.
It doesn't work.
And that's why I like ACOTAR more, is because I feel like the scope was a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And she does a better job of slowly expanding on those world-building elements to make it feel bigger than it actually is. Which is a difficult skill to learn. And I wonder if she learned that after writing Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
Like, she went through Who Paces with this book, and maybe she's like, wow, that was too much scope. It's too big. Some of these other elements. The next book I write, I'm going to make sure I know exactly what happened to my character before it begins.
Yeah.
The term is in medias res. You begin the story in the middle of a character's conflict.
Yeah.
And that's what shapes their worldview. And that's how they make decisions throughout the book.
Yeah.
So for me, it just got off on the exact wrong foot.
Yeah.
Her motivation for fighting for the king is to become free. That's what she wants. If that's like if in Hunger Games, Katniss was chosen to fight to save her people. Yeah. Like, that would be like if Hunger Games there was no Prim. Prim is the heart of that book.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's missing in this.
It's absent. Yeah.
And I will say, it's interesting because some of the issues that you have are, I think they're solved later on in the series. But, so I can't say anything about it. but it's like you still should have a good standalone first book.
Yeah.
It's like a pilot episode.
Yeah.
It has to be great.
Yeah.
In order to keep people going on. You shouldn't say like, oh, get through the first book.
Yeah.
I hate when people say that. We've talked about that before, but
That does bug me.
yeah.
And that's totally fair if she solves those problems later on. And I might keep reading if you trust that it does get better over time.
I don't know. If you didn't like this one, you probably won't like the rest.
I didn't. And there are more reasons as to why. It's not just that I felt like she was missing a motivation and that I didn't have an emotional connection to her.
Yeah.
I thought she was just kind of annoying as a character, kind of unlikable. We'll get into that later. I kind of want to talk a little bit more about like how I think you could have made us cared about Celaena at the beginning. Like, you could do something very similar to what Hunger Games does, where it's like, Celaena, she's been a year in this prison. Apparently, there was a slave who is from Isleway, which is another country. It comes up later. There's another character from that same country, a princess, Nehemiah, that Celaena apparently learned their language from while they were a prisoner.
Yeah.
And I think they were the same person who gave her a salve to heal her back after she was whipped her first night in the prison.
Yeah.
Why don't you make her motivation, I'm going to become the king's champion to save people like that slave?
Yeah.
And we don't know what that person's name is.
Yeah.
And my plan is to get as close to the king as possible, then I'll assassinate him because I'm an assassin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm an assassin. She doesn't do anything that an assassin would do. I'm sorry. We're going to talk about that too.
Yeah, it's interesting because this first book is about her becoming the king's assassin and the king's champion.
Kind of.
There's not a lot of assassin stuff, but more assassin stuff does happen in book 2.
Okay.
But you're right.
She's not an assassin.
It's missing in book 1.
Yeah.
And it would be much more potent if she's like, if maybe Dorian is like, hey, I've noticed you have a special connection to this other prisoner. If you don't work for me, I will kill them right here. Mm-hmm. You have to work for me. Or something like that to compel them. And to compel the reader to care.
Right. Dorian, yes, there needs to be some stakes.
Blackmail. Give me some blackmail.
There has to be something like that she's fighting for. Something, there has to be a consequence for her making those decisions.
Yeah, it's just kind of frustrating when it just starts out with, hey, do you want to fight for the king to become a champion? And then she's like, sure.
Why not? There's no air conditioning here.
Yeah. And it's like, the only reason why we care about her is because we feel bad that she's been a prisoner for so long.
Yeah.
This is something that Gideon the Ninth also does really well, is that in the first chapter, Gideon is not just taken before Harrowhark. And Harrowhark says, you're going to come with me to this planet.
Yeah.
And you're going to be my cavalier.
Yeah, she's actively trying to escape.
Yes,
that's
the key word, actively. Celaena is just taken before the prince, and then the prince takes her to this castle, and then her rooms are immaculate.
Yeah,
she has a billiards
live in a giant
table.
room, secret passages.
She gets these custom-made clothes.
Yeah.
The prince pays for all this stuff. She gets to read books at a library, all that she wants.
Yeah.
It's similar to Aquitar in that way, where it's like Feyre is taken away from her family, who she hates for good reason, relatively. Yeah. And then she's taken to this magical castle where this charming, handsome prince, this brooding prince,
is falling in love with her. She gets to paint and there's flowers.
And she eats whatever she wants.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is so boring.
Yeah.
It's like, why does the main character just get everything they want within the first few chapters?
Yeah, that's boring.
Yeah. It would have been so much more interesting to me if she was taken to the castle and she had to work her way towards like being able to read books from the library.
Yeah, if she was like kept under house arrest or some sort of probation.
I mean, never feels like she's under house arrest.
She's killed a lot of people in her life. She was in a prison.
Apparently, they never cover that. And she's treated like a princess from the beginning.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's frustrating. Like, she's like the world's most notorious assassin.
And they're like, she can go walk around by the weapons, I guess.
Yeah. She never has chains on when she's in her rooms. She sets up all these really small things that never ever pay off. Like her first day inside her new rooms, she makes a needle out of pins. And she's like, I'm going to kill a guard with this. Never does that.
Yeah.
She never tries to escape. She doesn't look for escape. She finds some escape routes. She never uses them. She never tries to leave.
Yeah.
She puts these sewing pins inside a bar of soap. And she's like, I could use this as like a makeshift mace. And I'm like, first of all, how is that a mace? And how are you going to hold that and hit someone with it? But whatever. She never uses that. It's like, it's the Chekhov's gun thing.
Yeah.
If you bring it up in the first act, it has to come back to pay off later.
Yes.
They set up how she's like really good with knives. So she eats her first meal. There's only a fork and a spoon there or something. There's no knives. They're like, oh, if she has a knife, she's unstoppable.
Everybody.
And I thought she would have this like
great knife
weird sexual obsession with knives. Like that would make her an interesting character.
Yeah.
I like reading someone who's more interesting than just, this pretty underappreciated, extremely talented young woman.
Yes.
Like, give her some flaws. Give her some hard, rough edges. She's just too well-rounded and perfect.
Yeah.
But they bring up the knife thing. She, like, goes into the training room. She trains with a sword. And then Cole is like, now pick up those knives and fight with me there. And she picks them up, but then they're interrupted.
Yeah.
Like, the knife thing never comes up.
Yeah.
Even in the final battle against the main big bad guy. This is the climactic event. She doesn't use knives at all to fight against him.
Yeah, that's stupid.
That's the only assassin-y thing about her in this book is that she uses knives.
Yeah.
But she's apparently good with knives, but she never uses them.
Yeah, that's stupid.
I'm sorry.
That's
I know I
stupid.
keep ranting.
No,
and
that's
raving,
okay.
But these small things just kept on piling up on top of each other where it's like, I don't know why, if her motivation is to just escape,
Why didn't she
to be
just
free,
leave?
why does she try to leave?
Yeah.
She could explore the glass castle on her own, and the consequences are if she's caught, then she'll be murdered because they're like, you're too dangerous.
Yeah, we have
You're trying to
out
escape.
And about or
But she's so good at being an assassin that she can sneak out of her rooms.
Yeah.
She never tries to do that.
yeah.
She's content to just hang out and read books and become closer friends with these beautiful, handsome, charming young men.
Yeah.
And I'm rolling my eyes because I think that's just the books that she wants to write.
Yeah, I think so too. That's why it's the romantasy genre, not the fantasy genre.
Yeah.
And you're right. You're not the target audience.
No, I'm not.
It's really comes down to that.
But are those romantic scenes... I'm asking you this question. Are those romance scenes interesting to you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I liked them, and I think a lot of people do too. It's definitely... Yeah.
Okay, well, even in books where romance is not the focus, I like stories about characters that have relationships with each other, not in a romantic way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I love stories with... I loved Hell Followed With Us because those characters, their relationships felt believable and interesting.
And there was more than just, hot girl and hot boy.
Yeah.
But like I agree with you, and I did enjoy like Celaena's relationship with Nehemiah.
That's how I say it anyway.
Yeah, that's how I would say it too. I just also you know when you read a book and you don't know how to pronounce it, so you're like, and then walk down the hall. Yeah.
Your brain just mutes it.
Yeah. And I liked Celaena's relationship with Celaena as well, the courtier lady, and like I liked stuff like that. I feel like there was some of that as well, just maybe not what you liked or as much as you wanted.
Yeah. Well, those probably were my favorite parts too. Personally, I didn't think they were very well done. Like they were trying to write Celaena as this prissy, passive-aggressive character, and she is. And there's a couple of chapters from her perspective.
Yeah.
To me, because those subplots didn't pay off in a very satisfying way, they kind of made the book feel bloated. Celaena is trying to fall in love with trying to get Prince Dorian to fall in love with her.
Yeah.
And she's doing that by trying to stab Celaena in the back, right?
Which is like the classic mean girl movie plot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But she never talks to Prince Dorian, really.
Yeah.
We don't get any scenes where she's like, conspiring with him. Not conspiring, that's not the right word. She conspires with another character, this big evil duke.
Yeah.
He never really plays into the story either.
Yeah.
Just like another problem with the story, which is like too many characters.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting if you had like more Celaena and Dorian interacting with Celaena.
Yes.
And they were told from Celena's perspective.
Yeah, I think that this book has too many points of views.
Yeah.
And the other issue is that you get like 3 chapters from Celaena's perspective through the whole book. I'm like, just cut them out.
Yeah.
You don't need that.
You don't need the chapters from Dorian's perspective. You don't need the ones from Cole's perspective.
And like even if, you know, as the series goes on, you get different characters and different plots. Even if like Celaena has a different arc in the end, give her that time when she needs it in book 2 or book 3.
Yeah.
She doesn't need a petty, prissy chapter in book 1.
Yeah.
It just distracts the reader from what book 1 should be about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Because we got those POV chapters from Celaena's point of view, I felt like they were trying to make a bigger deal, and they don't happen until like halfway through the book.
Yeah.
The first half of this book really is about Celaena kind of getting to know the prince and Cole better. And Cole really doesn't play much of a role in this story other than he just trains her.
Yeah.
But the second half, they really try to bring together too many things at once. Where it's like she's friends with Nehemiah. And Nehemiah is kind of a red herring for this this murder mystery subplot.
Yeah.
There's a murder mystery subplot in the middle of this thing too. Like there's just too much going on, and Celaena is trying to get in between Prince Dorian and Celaena. I thought for sure she was going to do something like Celaena gets closer to the queen who's trying to marry off Dorian, and the queen is like, we're going to have a wedding at the end of this book, and Dorian and you're going to marry Celaena.
Yeah.
And then Prince Dorian is like, oh, I'm in love with Celaena. And it happens right when Celaena finally kisses him. Yeah. And it's like, they're in love, but now her prince is taken away from her. Yeah. And he has to marry Celaena. It's like, that doesn't happen.
No, it's like, why?
Instead, she just falls in love. Yeah, it's not.
It's extra.
You could have done that and had the Celaena subplot, I think, and that would have been more interesting than what happens. Yeah. Instead, Celaena and Dorian fall in love, and at the end, Celaena tries to poison Celaena. Like, if she's just going to poison him, why do you need those chapters from her point of view?
You can still have it be that without the point of view.
Yeah.
And I really like books with multiple POVs, but I like them when there's more structure to it, and when it's maybe 2 people, 3 tops.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm open to more, of course, but when you have like 8 characters get 2 chapters and then the main character. Yeah. I'm like,
it's too scattered. You need to focus it down.
To me, it feels like maybe as an author, you don't have the skill set to portray a different character's ulterior motives through subtext to the reader. It's again not trusting your reader to be able to pick it up, I think. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
No, I completely agree. And I love multiple POV books too. But the ones that I like are the ones where it has a nice, even balance between the other characters. Yeah. It's really hard to just write a great story about one character. And if you're not ready to juggle those different stories between 2 or even 3 characters, it's even harder.
Yeah. And I think she does get better at that throughout the series. Yeah. But I don't know, because Crescent City does it, and it's
a mess.
But that's my own personal opinion on Crescent City. Whatever.
I think the elements are there for a satisfying story. But in almost every aspect, it's too big. Yeah. Like all the different characters, all the different subplots, there's too much going on. They didn't plan the ending well enough to make that feel satisfying. Yeah. Even the primary plot is supposed to be about Celaena becoming the champion. That's too big. Yeah. It's 13 weeks, and every week there's a new challenge. Yeah. That's too many. Yeah. And there's like 21 competitors, 24. That's too many characters.
Yeah, it's too big. You should have limited it to 10. You should have made the challenge last a month at the most. Yeah. Because you can still get the same bones, and you can boil it down to make it better, more intense, more rich. Yeah. With less going on.
Yes. This is the part of the episode where I talk about Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson talks about this in one of his lectures where when he was writing The Way of Kings, he told people that he had like 27 magic systems. And everyone was like, oh, that sounds so awesome. Started writing it and it was not interesting. He said it's like a lake that's a mile wide but an inch deep. That's what this book feels like.
Yeah.
Everything is surface level. It's too general. It doesn't get deep into the specifics for anything.
Yeah.
Like, even the characters. Like, Celaena, we don't know anything about her history or her backstory.
Yeah.
We don't know what type of assassin she is. We don't know why she's the most notorious assassin. We don't know what event brought her to prison.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you explain those things?
Yeah.
And I think it's because she just literally didn't know what they were when she wrote the book.
Or at least tease it a little bit more than just saying nothing, you know?
Yes. And the reason why I say that is because if there was this big traumatic event that led to her capture, if there was this massive event that made her the most notorious assassin in the world, it has no bearing, once again, on her thought process or her decision making.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But just to get back to the competition really quick, I totally agree with you. You got to limit it to like 4 challenges, and you make each one really special and unique. The 13 challenges, I can tell you what 3 of them were.
Yeah.
We only learn about 2 of them.
Yeah.
We only learned about 2 challenges.
Like,
well,
isn't
3,
isn't this
technically.
the whole point of the book? Isn't it what we were here for?
Yes.
It's weird because the book is set up to be Kate. It's about her competing in this tournament to become the champion. And then you get there and you're like...
Hang on. This isn't interesting.
It's not. It's not about that.
It's about the romance stuff.
And it's not about the Throne of Glass.
No, it's definitely not about the Throne of Glass. What the hell does that even mean? She's not trying to get the throne. There's like one scene that happens in the glass throne room.
Yeah, it's weird.
It should be called A Very Pretty Girl Who's in Prison Gets Taken to a Castle Where She's Taken Care of by a Very Handsome Prince. That should be the title of the book.
It should be called The Bachelorette.
That's what it should be called.
Which one is which?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't care.
Me either.
The champions that she fights against. This is a pet peeve of mine. All of them are these ugly, disgusting, evil brutes, murderers, rapists, deserters, thieves, assassins. And she's the only pure, white, beautiful, benevolent one. Yeah. And all of her friends, all of the good characters in this book are also pure, beautiful, white, nice people. Yeah. Like, I really, really hate books where it's like all the good guys are beautiful and handsome and young and talented, and all the bad guys are evil, they're missing eyes, they have crooked teeth. Yeah. I hate that.
Yeah, it's annoying.
And I know that we just read Red Rising and it's a similar thing.
Yes.
But at least there's a world building explanation for it. Yeah. Like the Golds, the reason why they're beautiful and geniuses is because for generations they've used genetic enhancements to make their children that way. Yeah. There's at least social commentary there. They're talking about like genetics or eugenics and stuff like that. Yeah. Here, there's no reason for it.
No, I definitely agree with you there. But again, you're just not the target audience.
No, there's more to it than that. Look at Guards Guard. You haven't read Guards Guards yet. We're going to read it. Look at pay attention to how he describes the main character, the heroes of that book. The heroes are not beautiful, young, handsome people that want to fuck each other. Yes. There's the main relationship, the romance relationship is so tender and sweet. It is so much better than the relationship between Celaena and Dorian. Yeah. And they're both middle-aged people. Yeah. You'll see when you read it. I'm just saying.
That's good.
This is not a genre problem.
No. Well, I will say those are 2 different genres, though. Yes.
Well, yeah, I guess so. It's not a romance. Yeah. But I'm saying why can't you write a romance about 2 people that are unattractive? Right? Yeah. Why don't they deserve love too? Yeah. And this leads me to my other pet peeve, which is that I think if Celaena was a real person and she met a homeless person in real life, she'd be grossed out by it. I think she's vain. Yeah. I think she's petulant. Like, there's a scene I'm thinking of specifically when she's learning how to play billiards, and Dorian, like, stands behind her and shows her how to use the pool cue. Just whatever. I understand that stuff. I know that titillates people who like a romance, right? But for me, I gotta like the characters first.
Yeah.
And Celaena's like trying to learn how to play billiards, and she's like getting pissed off that she's not good at it right away. She throws a pool cue across the table. She breaks one across her knee. Prince Dorian is watching her, and she's like, "Oh, she's so charming and lovely."
Like, oh, that's pretty toxic behavior.
If you met someone like that in real life,
Yeah.
where it's like they're trying to play pool and they're freaking out because they aren't a master at it right away,
they're narcissists.
why would you like them?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to pull back.
But that to me is like the epitome of her character.
Yeah.
Where she's like, I'm good at everything I do. I'm so beautiful. When I walk down the hallway, all these handsome guards whistle at me and catcall me, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like, she gets off on the attention of only beautiful people. That's the only people she cares about impressing. That's the only people she wants to spend her time around. It's the only people that she likes are people just like her. But here's the thing that bugs me about it. She's an assassin. She's a murderer.
Yeah.
Who
are you to get up on your high horse when you've literally killed other people?
I know. She's spending time around all these disgusting, gross, evil villains.
Yeah.
These other champions.
And she's like, I'm better than you.
I'm so much better than
like,
all of you.
Actually, you're supposed to be even more murderous than they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, to me, makes her more of a mean girl than Celaena.
Yeah.
Celaena is a mean girl. She says some passive-aggressive things. There's one moment when she first meets Nehemiah, and Nehemiah is friends with Celaena because they can speak the same language. There's a good explanation for that. She learned how to speak her language when she was in prison. They get along right away, and they talk about how ugly and annoying Celaena is behind her back. Right?
Yeah.
Well, right in front of her, but in another language.
Yeah.
And Celaena corrects Nehemiah's English one time. And then Celaena's like, I'm going to kill this. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to tear your eyes out of your head, squish them between my hands.
Yeah.
It's like,
Why am I supposed to like her? She's so vindictive too. And it's like, I know that she's trying to make Celaena come across as like a Malfoy character.
Yeah.
But Celaena has done more things that are similar to Malfoy. Like, Celaena would be a Slytherin.
Yeah.
She would be like...
She's ambitious. She's cunning. She's...
mean.
Yeah.
She's vain. I'm sorry. I know I keep vamping on this, and I know that you say that she gets better over time in the future books.
That's okay.
But she just comes across as a mean girl to me.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think...
There are characters that are vain that I like.
Yeah.
I like a character that's cocky and arrogant. I think that's a fun challenge.
Yeah.
Someone like Gideon the Ninth is similar.
Yeah.
Gideon the Ninth is a really good sword fighter.
Yeah.
And she backs that shit up. Gideon the Ninth also finds herself to be very attractive.
Yeah, because she works out like crazy.
And she loves how big her biceps are.
Yeah.
But she's not conventionally attractive the way Celaena is.
Yeah.
Celaena is this petite, blonde, perfect sized breast. She even says, like, I need to eat some more to make my breast the perfect size.
Yeah.
Like,
so what's the difference?
Between those two?
Yeah.
Well, Gideon has a sense of humor.
Yes. Yeah.
Celaena is vain, but she's not funny. Like, I think she's trying to write her like Gideon. But she's not as good at banter.
Yeah.
And Gideon is more charismatic in a way that she doesn't like put other people down. She's like not mean to other people.
Yeah.
She doesn't judge other people for being ugly, except for her captor. Ooh, God, Ortis.
Oh no, Crux.
Crux, yes, but Crux is
85-year-old
awful to her.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, also, I don't know. There's also like you don't often see feminine characters being the
cocky ones,
badass, most important person in the room, stuff like that. So, like, I think maybe that's part of why a lot of readers like it, is because they're like, oh, I never see that type of beauty glorified as the most powerful kind of beauty in that way. So, I don't know. I don't like that much about her character either.
And I'm not saying that, like, in fiction, a character that looks like Celaena is typically portrayed as demure. Like, they're the support character.
Yeah.
They're the healer.
Yeah.
You know, they're really passive, and they wanted... And if their intention was to write someone who fits that description, but fulfills a different archetype where it's like they're more like the male protagonist.
Yeah.
Or like the male knight or the male soldier.
Yeah.
Who's competent, headstrong, they can say things that are impolite.
Yeah.
And nobody says, hey, you can't do that because you're a guy.
Yeah.
Right? I understand that in real life that happens. Where it's like if a girl burps in public, people are like, gross. But if a guy does it, haha, it's funny.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a skill issue.
I think so too. Well, plus,
because getting the night is
yeah.
that.
Yeah. And this is a common problem that I have with the romantasy genre is the main character is a petite, pretty, so strong. I'm like, you literally can't be strong enough to wield a longsword without having biceps and a torso.
Yeah, and that's
know
why
what I mean?
Gideon's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Because she's, well, and that's why Celaena fits better as an assassin type.
Yeah.
Where it's like her main weapon.
Stealth
Yeah.
or intelligence.
Or poison.
Yeah.
But instead she's good at literally everything she touches.
Yeah.
And I think it's not Mary Jane, that's marijuana. It's Mary Sue.
Mary Sue. Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of a silly thing to talk about because I read stories about characters that are good at everything they do and I still like them.
Yeah.
Like Darrow from Red Rising.
Yeah.
He's a Mary Sue.
And that was my problem with Darrow, was that he was good at everything that he did.
Yes, but he's not. Yes, I totally agree. And Celaena falls into that same category, but the fact that she's so vain and judgmental and childish, like, and it wants attention so badly, just compounded with her being good at everything, and it made me not like her.
Yeah, bad flavor in your mouth.
So I don't have a problem with a character being good at everything they do. I don't have a problem with character being competent at something. As long as they're likable in some other ways, or they have some other rough edges. Like the first competition they do is shooting a bow at a target. Like, was that a part of her assassin training?
Yeah.
Becoming an incredible archer?
Yeah. Also, that's a pretty boring...
It's such a boring first task.
Yeah.
And there's no twist. It's not like she picks up her bow and then the string is different because someone is trying to foil her.
Yeah.
And she achieves the task anyway.
Yeah.
But that's a whole another discussion.
Yeah.
The plot in general happens too easily.
It seems like this whole book needed to be boiled down and simmered to become more potent, more thought out, more structured with less going on.
Yes.
And that would have helped with a lot of the issues.
Yeah, that is my major gripe with it.
Yeah.
Like, spend more time figuring out who Celaena is and making her a likable and empathetic character.
Yeah.
The fact that she doesn't have an emotional motivation also did not help with me not liking who she was.
It feels hollow again.
Yeah. It helps that Gideon has been treated so poorly by Harrowhark for so long. That kind of balances out her vanity.
Yes. Yeah.
There's another character in that.
Well, then what's the difference? Because Celaena's been a prisoner slave for so long.
I'm saying the motivation for Gideon is to escape her capture, her imprisonment with Harrowhark, so that she can achieve her destiny and become a soldier within the cohort war. And that's what Harrowhark has been keeping her from her entire life. She has something specific that she wants.
Yeah.
And they also hint towards Gideon feeling somehow responsible for the bad things that have happened to herself and Harrowhark.
It's more internal stuff going on, and it fits together nicely instead of just, well, I want to escape. Okay, then escape.
Escape to what?
Yeah.
I want to escape the castle to return to my family. To save them because, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
You can come up with something, but it has to be specific.
Yeah.
I just think she isn't a very...
by the seat of the pants.
Yeah.
Seat of pants.
I don't know. I had a lot of problems with it, obviously. Okay, here's another one. I'm sorry to bring this up.
You're fine.
But she's the world's most notorious assassin, right? And they have to keep her identity a secret because everyone knows the name Celaena Sardothian. Doesn't that feel like an oxymoron? Like an assassin. What's the purpose of an assassin?
To be secret.
To be a chameleon, right?
Yeah.
They have to learn how to blend into their environment.
Yeah.
No one will know who they are.
Well, I mean, she got sent to prison. You would know, if there was an assassin and they caught them, you would then know their name.
Sure. But how did she become the most notorious assassin? We don't know.
Yeah.
And that also ties in with her like obsession with being recognized as being amazing.
Yeah.
Like
it
while they're
doesn't
doing
fit with being an assassin.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Cole tells her, like, you have to blend in for this competition. You have to stay in the middle of the pack so people will underestimate you.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's brilliant. You're a genius.
Yeah.
Like, no one will expect me to come from the middle to win this thing. Even though has this burning desire to be seen as the best one in this competition from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And that to me just feels contradictory to what an assassin should be like.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, what kind of an assassin is she? Is she a poisoner? Is she like a cutthroat street rat assassin?
Yeah.
That's good with knives and obsessed with blood?
Not more specificity than just...
Does she like to be an assassin? I don't even know if she likes what she does. Does she like killing people?
You should get that from the point of view of the main character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just not enough information. It's a mile wide, but an inch deep.
Yeah.
Like, does she try to poison her champions while the competition is going on? They kind of suspect her for it. It's brought up a little bit. It's never paid off.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the story, when Kane, the main bad guy, it's crazy that we haven't mentioned him.
Yeah.
When he's like supposed to be the antagonist to this story.
Yeah.
He tells Celaena, I know who you are. You're the main assassin. She's like, oh no! What do I do now?
Yeah.
And then she tells Cole, hey, Kane figured out who we are, who I am. And Cole's like, okay, it's no big deal.
Then why did you keep it a secret?
Why did you have to keep it a secret? I don't understand that.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry you didn't like it.
No, it's okay. I mean, I'm trying to look for things that I did like about it.
Yeah.
But
failing.
It's difficult. For me, I don't know. I don't like the romance stuff, okay? Yeah. It's not for me. If that's something that people like, that's fine. I felt like it was just kind of on life support from beginning to end.
Yeah. I'm sorry you felt that way. I liked it. I still like it, and I think
that's fair.
Having the scope of the whole series definitely benefits.
Yeah.
Which you shouldn't have to read the whole series to enjoy something. You should enjoy all of it, more or less, but
yeah.
Yeah.
You should at least care about the main character.
Yeah.
And what they want.
Yeah.
But
and
we don't get that.
Even if you aren't the target audience,
yeah,
the main character should still be overall liked
by
readers.
You could still write a fun story about a character who becomes the king's champion.
Yeah.
By using their assassin skills in tasks that are designed for a big, strong male warrior.
Yeah.
But instead, the tasks are just boring. Shoot a bow and arrow. What? Climb a wall. Yeah. Okay. And then they skip past the other 9 tasks.
Most of them.
And then the 13th task, it's fighting a 1v1 versus the main bad guy.
Oh my gosh.
This is too much. Yeah. So I'm sorry I didn't like this.
Yeah, is this one of your favorite books?
No, it's not. I'm sorry if you were hoping for me to like this. I know you wanted me to like this more than Akotar.
Nah, it's okay.
Just because it had more action in it,
my
right?
bar for you enjoying things is now probably 6 feet under the ground.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's just you are such an analytical reader.
I'm an Anakin Skywalker of storytelling.
Yeah. And you really like to dissect it, and I love that. And I think it's interesting to hear your thoughts and your point of view on a story that wasn't written for you as the target audience in mind versus me as a semi-mood reader who would probably give 5 stars to anything because I'm entertained.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting.
Yeah. And I do enjoy it for that reason. I love learning about storytelling.
Yeah.
I love looking at that introduction and being like, okay, why do I like Getting the Ninth?
Yeah.
And I don't like Throne of Glass introduction. That's so much fun for me.
Yeah.
So I do want to read more books like that. Not all the time.
No.
I want to break it up with like Note of the Ninth, where it's like, I've never read anything like this before. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and that's true. The current book I'm reading, because we just read Note of the Ninth, and I'm like, it's a good book, but...
What? Note of the Ninth is just a good book?
No. Sorry. I read Nona the Ninth, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
My book after Nona the Ninth.
Oh, I see.
I'm like, it's good, but Nona the Ninth was transcendent.
Yeah.
It's hard. The book hangover for the Locked Tomb.
That's probably another reason why I didn't like Throne of Glass very much either.
Yeah.
I'm sure I would have had a much more optimistic point of view if I had read this like after Aquitar.
Yeah.
Where it's like my expectations after Nona the Ninth were sky high.
Yeah. Like the current book I'm reading, Station 11, it's really great, fantastic. It's a lot of my favorite tropes, my favorite things, my favorite settings. And it's good, but I'm like...
You can't help but compare it.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So our episode is now turned into another pitch for Tamsin Murr.
Yeah, this podcast was basically like 90% talking about Throne of Glass and 10% talking about Getting the Knife.
Yep.
And Locked Tomb series. I think that'll be every episode. We just tell people to read the Locked Tomb.
Yes.
Because it's so good.
It's so good.
Unless you're someone who's like, I've only read Throne of Glass. It's my first fantasy book. You might not like Getting the Knife
I don't know.
Maybe.
If you've read the whole series...
Yeah. And if you liked Throne of Glass,
I think
then you should
it's a good
read
stepping
Getting
stone.
the Knife.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just glad that Getting the Ninth is actually popular, you know, because it feels like a fringe book.
Yeah.
It's made for a niche audience.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Oh, it's done so well. Okay, that's not what this is
go
about.
back to Throne of the Glass. Throne of the Glass.
Yeah, I think that about sums it up.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry you hated it.
No, it's okay.
Next week, I'm going to make you read There's a Monster at the End of This Book by Grover. Because maybe that'll be a book you like.
Oh, Grover.
Yeah, it's a Sesame Street book.
Yeah, I'm probably going to love that one.
That was a joke. That's not our next book.
If you enjoyed, please subscribe and leave a like. It helps the channel out a lot.
Please comment if you liked Throne of Glass or not.
Yeah, we obviously have disagreements.
Yes, I like Throne of Glass.
If there's any other books that you think we will have different feelings about, let us know.
Oh, also, I want to give a quick shout out to Elias, who commented on all of our Locked Tomb series.
Yes.
Thank you for answering a lot of questions we had. I really appreciate that. We really appreciate that.
We need more smart people in this world.
It was awesome. Thanks for participating.
Yeah. Thank you for listening and goodbye.